everyone. Hope you enjoyed that video on the different types of lighting and are starting to think about the lighting that you will be putting in your reflective ceiling plan. Now we're going to go on to reflective ceiling plans that include lighting fixtures and electrical fixtures. So we will mosey on to the PowerPoint, shall we? Okay, there it is. And so right now we are going to, this is designing a reflective ceiling plan with electrical. So we're going to learn a little bit about some of these electrical components. Now, I have attached this actual page into your module, and these are some of the lighting legend symbols that you will be adding on to your reflective ceiling plan. And we are going to go over some of these key components. Now, some of them you know. Now, I don't want you to be too bothered with all of them, but it's good to have an understanding of what they are so that you can read a reflective ceiling plan effectively and confidently. But the main ones that we will be focusing on are the ones with these little red arrows. And I will go over those in depth because you will be adding many of these symbols to your own reflective ceiling plan. And as we look at these symbols, it's good to notice that there is a mixture. There are lighting fixtures as well as electrical fixtures. So let's go over this one with the red arrows. This first little symbol, which is a circle and two lines, is called a duplex receptacle outlet. This is your regular standard outlet. You look at right now and turn around the room, I'm sure you see them all. They're about 12 inches above the floor, right there in your wall, usually about every 9 feet, so that you can vacuum the room from any area. Secondly, we have another little guy there, and this has the letters GFI. And we will talk about that GFI. That little outlet with the GFI stands for ground fault interrupter. Now you might wonder, what does that mean, GFI? That little symbol with the GFI is an outlet that is always near water. So if you go into your bathroom or your kitchen, you might see those different outlets that have that little push button that pops red and says reset. That is for if water gets into the outlet or it senses water, it instantly trips that outlet and it cuts off all the electrical in that circuit. And that is for your safety to avoid an electrical fire. So your bathrooms, your kitchens, laundry rooms, and garages, they all have a GFI outlet. So I challenge you today, after we're done with the lecture, go find yours in your kitchens and your bathrooms. And I'm sure, like me, if you've ever had to plug in your blow dryer and it doesn't work, you press that GFI and all of a sudden it will give you energy. So that's what a GFI is. And those are definitely needed, and we will be adding those in the kitchen and the bathroom. And important to know. So that is what that is, that little GFI, regular duplex outlet. Now above this, it says the word height. Well, if you don't have a number there, then that's just your standard outlet. Usually most outlets are about 11 to 12 inches above the floor. But on occasions, you have a countertop outlet. So in those occasions, you must put the height that you want that outlet. So if you had a countertop outlet, it would be approximately 48 inches above finished floor. That tells me that that outlet is 48 inches above the floor. Gives the electrician a heads up of where to place that. Where else would you need one? Well, let's say you decided to hang a big screen TV above the fireplace or on a wall. You need an outlet right there instead of one way low. You don't want to see the tacky like TV cord way below. So if you get the option, you want to put an outlet, let's say 60 inches above finished floor. You would place the outlet there, put the height, and that tells the electrician where to put the outlet. You all have to put in a 52-inch TV somewhere. So if you're going to hang it on the wall, you've got to add an outlet. Now we are talking about these little triangles. Well, if you have an office or an internet, that is a data port or communication. A lot of times we mix them with the phone now. So you rarely just see the phone ones because barely anyone has a landline. But if you just fill it in, that goes for both. So you would put this little triangle on the wall wherever you wanted to have your internet connection. Let's say a desk in an office or behind a TV, so you have a data port. So that's what that is. Now let's talk about this outlet. It has half of it blackened out. What does that mean? Well, let me tell you. Have you ever walked into a room and you turned on a light switch and it turns on a lamp across the room? How does it do that? Well, that's what we call a half outlet. If you really look closely, in the old days, they actually turn them upside down. That means that one of those switches, usually it's the top, if you plug in your lamp or alarm clock or anything on that top plug, it controls a switch across the room. Now, one thing you don't want to do is plug in your alarm clock on that one that controlled by the switch, because you don't want to miss any important meetings or class. But it's fantastic when you can walk into your bedroom, flip on the switch, and the light turns on across the room. The problem is you got to get up often and go back and turn the switch off, or you can manually. But it's great when you're walking into a living room. You want to have light in there immediately, and you don't want to walk across your living room and turn on the light. You just want to flip a switch, and there the light fixture will go on. You will be required to add those outlets with that half filled in black near your lamps when you enter into the living room. So we'll have a switch far away, maybe by the fireplace or on a wall. So when you walk in, you don't have to walk all the way across the living room just to get light in there. So that's what those outlets are used. So let's review. Regular outlets, a circle, 2 lines. A regular outlet with the word GFI, that's for your kitchens and your wet areas. And then a regular outlet, 2 lines and a little half-filled area. That right here, right down here, is a split wire duplex. So one of the outlets control a switch and the other one is just normal. Then we have our handy dandy S's. Those stand for switches, and you guys have used those. Remember, you can add things next to them. So a regular single pole switch turns the light on, turns the light off. A switch with a 3-way, we learned about that, and that turns the light on 2 different locations. So you turn a light on at one location and turn it off at another. A 4-way we won't be using, but the next one is DM. That stands for dimmer. I am a true believer in dimmers. I try to put dimmers on all of my lighting. It gives me more flexibility. It goes from general light to task lighting. So dimmers can really control the different vibe of the room. So let's say you have a 2-way switch, an S with a 3. You could also put a DM next to it. So it's a 3-way switch with a dimmer. You can always add that dimmer onto the various different switches. So it's an add-on, okay? Or it can stand alone, but I love dimmers. So definitely we want to see some dimmers. A T with a square, it's just important for you to identify. That's the thermostat. And the last thing we want to do is put a big piece of furniture in front of a thermostat. That's a no-no. It's hard to reach. Then you can't control the air conditioning. Here's some other symbols that you might want to be aware of. This is a mounted ceiling, a recessed ceiling can. You saw those before. One that has half filled means it's a wall washer. What that does is when it's half full, half filled, it's just taking half that washer, that recessed can, and washing it onto the wall. And it's called a wall washer. And you would use that for art or to highlight something on the wall, a nook, and that would be perfect for accent lighting. This is another type of light. If you have a light that has direction, like a spotlight, which again is another type of either task or accent lighting. A regular square or a square with the diagonal line is what we use for a fluorescent fixture. And you'll see fluorescent fixtures in kitchens, in bathrooms, and a lot of commercial spaces. Now, this is the little symbol for a fluorescent strip light, and you might see that underneath a countertop, which will give a kitchen task light. A lot of times in kitchens, you have an upper cabinet, and you'll see a little fluorescent strip. I have those, and it gives you nice counter light. That's task lighting. So that's a line with two triangles. You're not to memorize this. You can refer to this, but I just want to explain what they're for. Next, this is track lighting. So all these little triangles represent lights. Sometimes they're on the other side, and where the wide area is, it's showing where the light is pointing. So this is really important. You have this on your module, and you're welcome to just download that or print it and use it as a guide. Now we're going to talk about some fixtures. Remember, she talked about flush mounted fixtures. They just go straight to the ceiling. There's no cord, no cable, no chain, straight to the ceiling. And the symbol could be just as simple as a circle, but you want to keep it to scale. So if this is a 24-inch flush mounted fixture, try to make your circle 24 inches on your legend and on your reflective ceiling plan. Here, see all these little recessed lights? Those are shown as little circles. Some reflective ceiling plans put R's. You don't have to do that. You can just put that on the legend next to the circle and say recessed lighting. And that represents all these little guys, just a little R or just a smaller 4-inch, 6-inch circle. Now, if you have a hanging pendant or chandelier, often it'll be the size, a big circle, and it also shows little teeny arms or little, almost like a cross in the front, but it's little teeny arms here. And that often will represent a hanging chandelier fixture or a pendant. And pendants are wonderful over dining rooms, elegant bathrooms, or over bars. They go from large to small and everything in between. Now, if you have a sconce, this is called a wall sconce. That means the lighting is actually hardwired right into the wall, which requires an electrician. You would show this on your reflective ceiling plan as either a circle with the line, and this line represents the wall. So it's kind of popping out with the circle. Now, sometimes that circle will be a half circle, and it'll just be like a half circle. So there are different types of symbols, but what you really want to note is you actually bring a line and you put that fixture on the end. It's like popping out of the wall. But this is called a wall sconce. Now, remember we talked about track lighting, and that track lighting has the little triangles, and wherever the wide part of the triangle is where the light is coming out. In this instance, it's showing some light shining this way and light shining this way, but you actually put, as long as the track is, let's say it's 5 feet, you would have a 5-foot line with little triangles that represent how many light fixtures you have. So if we go back to this guy, you'll see that track lighting right there, and it's got the little triangles, okay? And that is representing the light fixtures on there. So you got the track lighting. Here, they are showing an exhaust fan. There's different types of looks for exhaust fans. I won't necessarily make you put one in the bathroom, but normally by code, you would need an exhaust fan for any bathroom that does not have a window. If it has a window, it's not required. So you'll see them in hotels a lot, or maybe you have a downstairs a little powder room. Make a note, see if there's a fan in there or not. It should have one if there's no window. So a lot of times you'll see kind of a little line on each side to show that this is an exhaust fan. Other sometimes it shows a yin and yang symbol as an exhaust fan. And they may change a little, but be aware of an exhaust fan type of lighting fixture. I like the ones that have light and the exhaust fan. They have both, and it's super handy. Now there's that half little circle. It's called a recessed wall washer. So what that's showing, like I said, is one part of this is blocked out, and it's showing that it's directional and that it is pointing. So the light side shows which way the light is pointing. So if you have a wall washer, you want to make sure this light side is pointing towards the wall. And see what this is doing? It's pointing towards perhaps artwork or something that this light wants to really focus on. Now, this is another type of a little directional light. This is just one spotlight, and it's got an arrow showing what direction the spotlight is pointing. Now, sometimes it just shows a line with a little arrow, like on our legend, but this also will work, and this indicates a spotlight. Here, all of these fluorescents, this is a recessed fluorescent. Some of them are stick out, but other ones are recessed. That's what the R is for. But once again, it is a rectangle. And like I said, many fluorescents just have a diagonal line. If it doesn't have the R, it means it's not flush or recessed into the ceiling. But these are commonly found in mainly commercial spaces. Sometimes you'll find them in your bathrooms or kitchens. Here is just a wall-mounted recess. So see how it's not recessed in? It's just a wall-mounted fluorescent. And once again, just a rectangle, a 2x4 with a diagonal line. Now we talked about that under-counter little task light here, and this is what it looks like. It has a line with two areas. It could be a triangle or more open like a V. Those are the two symbols, either a V with a line or a triangle on each end. But this indicates an upper cabinet fluorescent fixture. And do you see how those are just highlighting and giving a lot of great task lighting to the counter? We love to put those under cabinets or in a desk area in an office. Next, you might find these are more like skylights. Now, you won't be using that in this, but they kind of look like a telescope. So you might see this fixture for a light that's coming and being redirected into that house from outside. We call those solar tubes. You won't see them, but they're kind of coming around and creating natural light in more greenhouses. Now remember our switches. They look like a dollar sign, but not one, only one less line. So I want to let you know, you always do a switch where the wall is here and it's sticking out this way. So wherever the wall is, you must put the line and that perfect little S, and that represents a single pole switch. Some of you were putting the S next to the wall, but it actually really needs to be connected to the wall right here. And that's a single switch. Here we go. That half-hot receptacle or split wire outlet. Remember I told you it controls a lamp from a fixture or from a switch. Here you can see that diagram. I plug it in here. It's usually the top one that controls the switch. This is plugged into the outlet. I go to this switch, I turn it on, and the electricity runs through that and into this lamp. The bottom one are normally normal, but the top one is controlled by a switch. They call it half hot because an outlet is always considered hot because electricity is constantly available to it. So you can plug in it any time and it'll turn on. But if you plug this switch in or this outlet in without turning on the switch, no electrical current is flowing through it. Therefore, this top one is not hot. So we consider when an electrician says, oh, all the outlets are hot, it means that they're all turned on and current is available if you plug something in. A half hot means it's only half of them. It's available until you turn on the switch. So you learn something new every day, right? So we want to put these near our lamps that we want a switch to control. Once again, here's a switch with a D, standing for dimmer. We love our dimmers. You could do D, DM. I just prefer D. So it could be, you could add a D almost on every type of switch. Here's a three-way switch. Remember, you turn on a fixture from a switch from one area, and it boop, 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 goes to two different lamps or a lamp, and then you turn it off on a different area. That is called a three-way switch. One, the lighting is 2, and the other switch makes it 3. And we love our three-way switches. We put them on our last RCP. So I'm really going to have you put three-way switches. Now, you can add a D on this, which makes it a three-way switch dimmer, but it would be controlled on one area. So the dimmer and three-way switches are possible, or just a three-way switch. Here is that GFI. Remember, I talked about that. We want to make sure that we have these GFIs standing for ground fault circuit interrupter, and or sometimes we just call them GFIs. We get rid of the circuit and we call it ground fault interrupter. And this interrupts or detects abnormal current flow, and it grounds the circuit, preventing a hazardous situation. So it could be like my blow dryer causing too much electricity, energy flow really too fast. Or like I said, it could be it's detecting moisture or anything that could cause a possible electric fire. These are extremely important to have their code, and we need them to enforce our fire codes so that there is never electrical fire. And they're very handy. So if a breaker goes out, or if you noticed a whole entire area, like your whole kitchen area, the electricity isn't working, first try to press that reset button and see if it pops back on instead of calling the electrician. Save yourself some money. So these GFIs have to be located wherever there is water or hazardous situation. That thermostat, that's what that looks, and that is a T. Remember, we talked about a T. Oops, I think we're hiding that. The T, and that T just indicates where this is. And we do not want to put furniture or in any way obstruct the thermostat. So it's good to always identify on an electrical plan where the thermostat is. Once again, a little phone is a triangle. Now, if you fill that phone in and it's completely dark, that's a data port. And that shows us where the phone jacks are. This is a typical doorbell little symbol. We don't always put those in, but it's good to identify them. Once again, now, sometimes this is different than a 110 outlet. This is a 210 outlet. And often you will need these 210 outlets. They are providing more voltage, and you need these for certain high voltage appliances, such as a stove or a refrigerator or a washing machine. So it's important that very high performance, energy sucking types of appliances may require a 220 outlet. You will see them. They're very bigger, and they've got 3 prongs, and they usually shape differently. They're very industrial. So if you go in the back of your dryer, you'll probably see one. If you could pull your stove away, you'd probably see one. And some refrigerations require them. So make sure when you're designing a kitchen, you know where every appliance goes, so you can make sure you have the right outlets for those appliances. So that's a 320 volt. A regular outlet over here, as we saw, is considered, let's go back at it. Maybe I missed it. No, maybe I went too fast trying to find that regular outlet, but these are 110 volts. They just are a regular outlet. Okay, and then Sometimes you need an outlet on the floor. With today's floating and big great rooms, you'll find furniture floating in the middle. How do you get electricity to the lamps that are floating in the middle? Well, often we will specify floor outlets, which are plates in the floor. They have to saw cut into that concrete, lay down that electrical so that you can plug your light into the floor without tripping over the cord from the wall, and so that can cause a trip hazard. But that really needs to be planned in advance. So floor outlets are a square with a circle and two lines. And it's important if you're designing a conference room, or you know that you have floating furniture in a lobby of a hotel or in your own house, that you let the electrician know that we need to do a floor outlet. They're very costly to put in later, so try to implement them before the flooring goes in your house. They have to saw cut through the concrete, the foundation. And if you get the location wrong, which I did once in an office, I was 3 inches off to plug in a conference table electrical. So it was a very costly situation. So I implore you to make sure if you ever put a floor outlet, you know exactly where it needs to go and do it way in advance. So these are floor outlets, and they're very handy. And here, once again, data outlets for internet. So they're dark and they're filled in. And so these are for all your data cables. So for your offices, wherever you want your particular computer, it's always great if you can specify where the data ports go, and especially commercial offices. And once again, just a regular cable box here, just that kind of thing. So wherever your big screen TV, that would be super handy. Adding that triangle, I would actually fill it in and make it a data port too, and so that they have both. Yes. And these are things just to know. Your water supply, it just looks like a cross with 3 lines. That's something you won't need to put in, but it's good to know where those are when you're reading a plan. And also your gas line. If you're specifying a stove, you want to make sure that there's gas for that stove, else you might have to end up getting an electrical stove. So some homes actually don't have gas running through, especially some of the older homes, and even the newer ones, they're trying to get rid of gas. So when you're trying to pick out the right stove or oven for your client, you better make sure that there's gas available, else that's going to be an expensive purchase to exchange that. So as you see, there's different little components and legend, little symbols. I just want to thoroughly go over them so you had an understanding of what they were and where they go. When I do the demonstration of the reflective ceiling plan, I will take those symbols that we just talked about and show you where they go and how we will apply them to our floor plan and where you put them on the legend. So I hope this was helpful, that you learned something a little bit about types of lighting. I want you to start thinking about that, selecting your lighting. Then also think about the electricity and the electrical needs for your floor plan. You've already done the furniture, and now we're going to do the reflective ceiling plan. So this will really help us to understand where we need our outlets, where we need our different lighting fixtures. And so I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I look forward to the demonstration next.